After his appearance in Black Adam, followed by his shocking departure from The Witcher, it looks like Cavill's return won't just be a fight between Superman and Black Adam. Not to mention that the recent appointment of James Gunn as the new creative director of DCEU has fans roaring with excitement about how he'll take the DC heroes to new heights. So today we'll discuss how Gunn's DCEU role could be great for Cavill's Superman. First off, is James Gunn set to direct the new Superman movie? So far there's been no news about a new Superman movie, and no director has been named for a Superman project. Yet James Gunn is now an executive at DC Studios, which is a first in the industry because creators rarely take on such demanding executive roles. But it's unlikely that he'll be directing the next Superman movie in the DCEU. According to THR, James Gunn will keep working on his own DC projects, like the second season of Peacemaker. So it's not entirely impossible that Gunn will direct another DC movie or show. But even if he doesn't direct the long-awaited sequel to Man of Steel, the next Superman movie will still be a part of Gunn's plan for DC Studios. Next up, Gunn's vision can help craft a new Superman movie. Even though it's too early to say what James Gunn has in mind for the DC universe, the fact that the DC films will now have a unified vision is good news for the next Superman movie. After Zack Snyder left Justice League and there were a lot of problems with that movie, the DCEU avoided making new long-term plans for the franchise. And 5 years after Justice League, Henry Cavill's Superman was nowhere to be seen. Alongside Keaton's Batman, BATFLECK was supposed to return in The Flash and the Aquaman sequel. We saw Batgirl getting cancelled, and still there hasn't been any sign that Justice League 2 will happen soon. As of now, no new DCEU movie has been announced for the next few years, so after Aquaman 2, the future of DC's shared universe is still unknown. But despite all this, there's a sense of assurity that new DC projects will be announced as soon as James Gunn's plans for the newly formed DC Studios become clearer, hopefully with a unified vision and an overarching story to guide the DC universe. Not to mention, the Suicide Squad is what Man of Steel 2 should be. James Gunn had already shown what a Man of Steel sequel should be like with the Suicide Squad, which came out in 2021 before he joined DC Studios. Wait, what? No, that doesn't mean that the next Superman movie should have the same tone and pace as the Suicide Squad. It just means that the soft reboot from the Suicide Squad can be used for a possible sequel to Man of Steel. And even if the next Superman movie is meant to be a fresh start for Henry Cavill's Superman, it would be a mistake to forget about his previous appearances in the DCEU. Gotta maintain continuity. Even though Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice were kinda divisive, they set the stage for Superman's origins in the DCEU and introduced many characters who helped him. Let's just say if Lois Lane were played by someone else in the Man of Steel 2, the movie would be a real reboot, which is not what DC wants right now, followed by the sequel reboot approach. Well, we think the best way to make the next Superman movie is to do something like what the Suicide Squad did. Let us explain. The Suicide Squad wasn't a direct sequel to the 2016 movie Suicide Squad, which means that it didn't continue any specific storylines and did not depend on what happened in the first movie. It also doesn't contradict the first movie in any way, and none of the characters from the first movie was changed for this one. The sequel takes place in the same world as Suicide Squad, but has a different story and tone. And we think that is exactly what Superman needs 5 years after his last major role in a DCEU movie. Coming up next, Superman's return happened at the perfect time. Even though DC took too long to bring back Henry Cavill's Superman, to the point where many people thought Cavill would never play Superman again, Black Adam's post-credit scene came at the perfect time. If Henry Cavill had come back as Superman before DC Studios was planned, the lack of a clear vision and plan for the DCEU could have hurt Superman and other important DC characters again. The thing is, Henry Cavill's Superman has only been the main character in 3 DC movies, which is shocking when you look at how many times Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man and Chris Evans' Captain America have been in movies at the same time period. So it's safe to say that the MCU has shown more than once that interconnectivity and recurring characters can help a movie universe. And if James Gunn is in charge of DC Studios, all future DC movies, except for Joker Folie à Deux and the sequels to the Batman, will be connected somehow. This brings us to the cinematic universe, which began with Man of Steel but hasn't really ended yet. And even though solo adventures and movies about individual characters are important, a DC cinematic universe can only go so far without Justice League or Superman. Not to forget, Superman is vital for the DCEU. It's pretty clear that the DC universe needs Henry Cavill's Superman to work, just like Superman needs the DC universe. And no matter what James Gunn has in mind for DC Studios, they must have something to do with Superman. Even though Black Adam's scene with Superman is exciting, it needs to lead to more than just a fight between Superman and Black Adam. The Rock has already said on Twitter that the long-awaited fight between Superman and Black Adam is definitely not the next step. This means that Superman's future in the DC universe has yet to be shown, and it's just a matter of time till we see him next. Moving on to Gunn debunks Henry Cavill's Superman TV show rumors. After a long time away from the big screen as the DCEU's Superman, Henry Cavill returned to the role in the after-credits scene of Dwayne Johnson's Black Adam. But as Cavill himself said, that was just a taste of what's to come for the Man of Steel, who was last seen in the franchise in 2017's Justice League. And even though Cavill is not signed to a contract right now, that hasn't stopped false rumors about what will happen to his Superman. Well, according to a recent rumor, Cavill has signed on to play the DC icon, and that part of his new contract is to appear on TV as Superman. But it didn't take long for Gunn to end the false rumors when he took to Twitter to clear things up. According to Gunn, he doesn't know where they got their information, but he made it clear that no one knows what's happening at DC Studios, and added that only he and his co-CEO Peter Safran would know if Cavill has contracts for any DC projects, which kind of makes sense. Why would they bring in Henry to the TV projects when Tyler Hoechlin is already there? Now let's look at all the ways Henry Cavill's Superman could return. The newly appointed CEOs of the DCEU have just started making their 10-year plan, and they have 2 months to finish it. But it would be way too soon for Cavill to already have a deal, especially one that is long, and would let Superman show up on TV and DCEU shows, especially on HBO Max. And as of now, Cavill hasn't signed a new deal yet, but there are many ways for his Superman to show up again in the DCEU. Shazam! Fury of the Gods is one of 4 DCEU movies that Warner Bros. Discovery has planned for 2023, alongside Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, The Flash, and Blue Beetle. But even though most of these movies have already been shot and have had multiple reshoots, Cavill could do something like he did with Black Adam, where he shot his cameo a month before Johnson's movie came out in theaters. And if schedules could be worked out, Cavill's Superman could come back in any of the 2023 movies, depending on where the DCEU is going. Finally, so what's in store for the Man of Steel currently? For now, only Peacemaker is tied to the franchise, but that doesn't mean Superman couldn't appear in other shows. Gunn is working on a spin-off series about Amanda Waller and mystery DCEU TV shows, which means they want the series to connect to the movies, especially since HBO Max will change its name when it merges with Discovery Plus in 2023. And when there are more DCEU shows on the streaming service, it will make more sense for Cavill's Superman to appear in 1 or 2 episodes of one of them. But since Man of Steel 2 is said to be in the works, we may soon find out more about Henry Cavill's Superman in upcoming DCEU projects. The future looks bright for the DCEU, but it's time to show us what they have in store for us. That's all for this video. Do you think Gunn's vision will be great for Cavill's Superman? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more exciting content in the future. Thanks for watching. See you next time.